When I went to Nebraska, I wasn't exactly your typical like all-star junior bowler. You know, you have some players that go into college and they are like junior gold champions, teen master champions. I wasn't that way. I mean, I was a great junior bowler. I had a high average in the nation for juniors, but like I went to Nebraska with no, like I was just this 17-year-old upstate New Yorker just wanting to bowl. And I went with an open mind, and I think essentially that's really what helped me blossom there. I did start as a freshman, but I got torn apart when I went to Nebraska. Like, I'm gonna be honest, you know, Bill Straub and Paul Klempa, they worked with me a lot, did some video with me, and I had to work real hard to become a starter on that team. And just every year I got better and better. And by the time I was a sophomore, I was an anchor, and I was anchoring over some juniors, seniors. It kind of went through some adversity with that, obviously, but I put the time in. I have honestly everything to owe to that program, to the bowler that I've become even to this day. My intensity bowling, my consistency bowling all came from collegiate at Nebraska. So I am so grateful for that program, because essentially it's what really put me to that next level. I remember when I was in high school, I used to watch videos of Nebraska, in particular Miss Shanna Plahowski, who is quite possibly the best Nebraska anchor bowler, NCAA anchor bowler of all time, clutch. And I remember there was a specific video of her throwing a double to win the national championships, and she was wearing Elmo socks. And I just remember that from the video. But I idolized that moment. I idolized being that girl right then, throwing that double to win. And I get to Nebraska and Shannon's on the wall. You got Deandra Aspady on the wall, Lindsey Boomershine. You're just talking about bowling like prodigies that are on this Player of the Year wall. And I just wanted that to be me. I remember walking on campus and walking in the bowling alley being like, I'm going to be next to Shanna Plahowski on that wall someday. So the fact that I actually eventually made it happen my senior year, that just like meant everything to me, because I go back to watching Shannon in those MO socks in my bed as 16 years old, and now I'm on the wall, you know, a Player of the Year with her. So definitely came full circle.
Trying a different angle of approach, and oh my goodness, there it goes! Wow!
There's this old bowling announcer who used to say a long time ago, hit them thin and watch them spin.
I was actually the class of people where I graduated high school. I graduated college, and the PWBA announced their return. So I had a plan already. I was going to go to law school at UAlbany. I was going to become a criminal law lawyer. I had this whole plan for myself, and then I shifted. They announced that they were coming back, and I kind of had to change my whole deal. You know, that specific year in 2015, I had won a national championship. I was D1 Player of the Year. I was Female Athlete of the Year in Nebraska. So I was like on this string, and the decision was pretty easy. I'm like, okay, well, I have a chance to be a professional athlete. I'm going to do that, you know, and I walked across stage, and I came here. And I made my very first show here, that tournament, right out of college. So talk about early success. You know, I had that early on. I would like to say the decision was hard, but it wasn't. You know, I knew what I wanted to do. So packed up, drove from Nebraska to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and made a Queens TV show. So it's been history since then. Work, 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 work. Yes!
It did. It commanded. Did exactly what she said she was demanding it to do. Now the Queens.
I mean, I think the highest expectation came from myself, honestly. I didn't feel it as much from like either my parents or from the bowling world. I think that was only because collegiate players at that time, this was going to be like their first time, you know, going on the PWBA. So obviously before it had gone away, there was collegiate players that went out and bowled, but I was kind of like that first class of seeing, okay, well, how are the collegiate players going to perform on a, you know, professional stage? So I kind of had a clean slate that way, I felt, but I felt my biggest expectations were from me, you know, because at the time I was high flying. Like I said, I had done all these things at Nebraska and kind of exhausted myself as far as accolades there. So going on the PWBA was kind of going to be, I almost felt like small fish, big pond, right? Maybe not exactly small fish, but it was going to be a whole new thing for me. I was going to be bowling with people like Kelly Kuhlkin and Liz Johnson, who I have looked up to my entire bowling life. You know, so I think it was just a clean slate for me, but the highest expectation fell within myself, I think, for sure. I feel like I had a lot of early success, and that I always tell people was a blessing and a curse. A blessing because obviously I won, but a curse because I had my expectations set so high that, you know, I didn't really accept anything else, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think when I was younger, I took advantage a lot of my natural ability. I had just gotten out of college at the University of Nebraska, and I was sharp, this 21-year-old kid that practiced 6 days a week and, you know, was sharp as a tack. And then I got mediocre for a couple years, and I didn't practice. And these girls are really good, and they'll make you feel like you're not very good because of it. I just had this fluctuation where I was really good, mediocre, reality check, really good again, a little mediocre, and now I feel like I'm kind of back on that upswing. And I feel like it's time now to really show consistency in my game and week to week, you know, be a competitor to win. When you're younger, you kind of feel like you're invincible in a way. And what I mean by that is, you know, come to the bowling alley late, throw your shoes on and throw shots. I've realized over time that your body catches up with you. You may think that you're young and invincible, but in fact, it's just waiting later on to tell you, hey, you should have done this in your 20s. I went through a couple-year period where I kind of had I needed a reality check. I'm gonna be honest. Like I said, I took advantage of the fact that I was naturally talented. I didn't practice. I didn't take care of my body. I think it took a couple years of being in the red, real red, to say to yourself, okay, listen, if you want to make this a legitimate career and be known as one of the best, you need to practice like the best. You need to take care of yourself like the best. And I knew I wasn't. So, you know, COVID obviously happened, and we didn't have a tour season. When we came back is kind of when I was like, I'm going to come back better than ever. I'm going to come back and be the one in that group of people that are elite. I don't want to just be a person that collects a check anymore. I want to be that person that competes every single week to win. I don't lace my shoes up to get a $2,000 check. I want to win.
Left lane.
Yes!
Got it.
Go quick, come on. Make her shoot it. Just those years of kind of missing cuts, missing spares, just doing all those things that make you mediocre kind of woke me up a little bit to being like, you know what, I like winning. I don't like being mediocre and putting my stuff on the truck after day one. I want to be out there for the whole time, and I want to lace up my shoes and know I can win. So that's always been kind of my story, is I want to be consistent. I want to be that person week to week that's in contention for a title. I don't want to just be like, all right, you know, I made a cut. You know, I'm kind of past that point in my career. I'm here to win.
Not a major. Needs a mark. Has a mark. And has the victory over Shannon O'Keefe. Liz Kuhlkin will climb the ladder in Orlando tonight.
Big move on the left lane.
Liked it, and that's why. 60 feet to success for Liz Kuhlkin as she blitzes right through the rack, all 10 back in the pit.
Not strong enough to push itself into the 7-pin and run it over.
Looks for a 5-bagger now, and covers all 10, and expands the lead one more time.
It's got to push.
Delivers with a huge strike. Liz Kuhlkin goes for a U.S. Open championship. She's got it with the 9 pins. And she has won the 2018 U.S. Women's Open. It's her first career major.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for believing you. Love you, Mom and Dad. Thank you, USBC. I'm bringing it home, Mom and Dad.
You heard it. She's a champion.
Winning a major, I think, like you said, is probably at the pinnacle of every player's mindset. You know, you obviously want to win a title. You want to stack up those titles to kind of, you know, show your progression over the years. But the major, the elusive major, is always on, I feel like, everybody's checklist, right? It almost hangs over players' heads, I think, when they have multiple titles and they haven't gotten a major yet. You know, not taking anything away from the Queens or the Players' Championship or Tour Championship, but the U.S. Open, when you're bowling that many games and you're just totally exhausted at the end of the week, to win that and to just see the people who have won that and the crowd you are now in for the rest of your life and the rest of your career, it's just something that's indescribable. And, you know, the U.S. Open is at the pinnacle of every sport. So now I have reached a pinnacle in the profession that I love, and I have a green jacket. And just to say that, and like I said, being the company that I am of the people who have won is just something that nobody can ever take away. Even if I go the rest of my years, you know, not winning a title, which I hope to God doesn't happen, but I won the U.S. Open, and that can never be taken away from me.